Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. It is the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. Hello out there. Hello to, hey, later, all the podcast people. Hello to our live listeners out there at IRN and many, many other places. And of course, hello to our chatters there at twitch.tv/Computer America. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and we have a great show planned for you today. Because today we are going to do, an entire hour of computer and technology news. And this is going to be good because every other day this week we're going to have a guest. So today we're going to catch up on everything that, that we wanted to. And here's the thing, we only have about, quick guess would be about 15 to 20 stories that we should probably touch on. So lots to talk about, not much time to do it, and we felt today was as good a day as any to do computer and technology news. So with that being said, a couple of things before we get started, including computeramerica.com, always got to plug ourselves, and that's where you're going to find everything from the show notes to links to any articles or videos that we do. Anything and everything will, of course, be right there. Also, be sure to check out the social media contest brought to you by Logitech, found right there on the homepage. There's like 13 different ways you can enter or 13 different ways you can get an entry. And so you can increase your chances of winning by, a lot. So let's see, there's that. And then, of course, there is, the live video stream. How could I forget? The live video stream brought to you by OWC. And of course, you can find that at our homepage or at twitch.tv/Computer America. So, all that being said, I think we are ready to go ahead and get rolling. And let's see. All right. So, as I said before, no guests today. We are going to do a full segment of computer and technology news. And yeah, here we go. Let's go ahead and do that. And of course, computer and technology news is brought to you by OWC. If you haven't checked them out, owcdigital.com. And yeah, you can check out all of the products that they make there. They make hard drives. They make a lot of, computer peripherals and computer innards. And if you enjoy kind of the Mac aesthetic, the clean, metal look, very, very stylish. You can, of course, check out OWC because they got you covered. They're not strictly, they're not owned by Apple or anything, but they definitely do continue that look throughout all their products. So they're very clean, they're very well tested, and definitely go check them out. Again, owcdigital.com. All right. So a lot of these are brand new, today, did not get to them. And some of them are from yesterday's because I really wanted to touch on them. And I think we're going to go ahead and start with this one. So I really wanted to get to this one yesterday, but things as such they are, let's go ahead and talk about it today. So you may have heard of this company. They are, of course, pretty big players when it comes to television, telecommunications. AT&T, they are huge. Well, turns out that even they can do some pretty not so up and up things when when their back is to the wall. So this is coming to us from Gizmodo and AJ Dellinger, saying that AT&T employees reportedly encouraged to use unethical sales tactics to drive up DirecTV Now subscriptions. So we're going to get into just what that, just what DirecTV Now is and why they were, and what they were doing and why they were doing it. So Here we go, saying that former AT&T employees are blowing the whistle on the company, and they are accusing higher-ups at the telecommunications giant of pushing its sales team to aggressively sign up customers for its streaming service DirecTV Now, leading to consumers paying for unexpected charges. So obviously, DirecTV was recently purchased by AT&T about a year or two ago. So obviously they fall under the same umbrella. And DirecTV Now is their strictly streaming service that you can purchase through AT&T. Think of it like HBO Now, but instead of just HBO, it's the entire thing. So Hawaii News Now spoke with several AT&T employees, including some who were fired for engaging in the very behavior that they claim management encouraged. And the employees called the tactics used unethical and said they encouraged to manipulate sales. And, this is something that we have seen from, the last unethical sales story that we kind of talked about was at a particular bank. I don't want to name any in particular as I don't want to, kind of point the finger at the wrong person, but these large companies that you'd think would have no need to engage in these kinds of practices because, hey, their commercials run every 15 seconds. You'd think that, they would have no need to, really milk those numbers just to make it look like they're doing better. Well, in some of the cases, the biggest players are the biggest offenders. So, per the report, here's what happened, and they actually include several employees, including one named Abraham Bunya, saying that AT&T's top salesman in the state of Hawaii for 2 years, the company engaged in several different questionable practices in an effort to try to sign up customers for their streaming service. And so here's what they would do. They would offer a trial to the service and for the service to the customer and promise to cancel it on their account before it automatically renewed and charge them the $35 per month fee. And it's against AT&T's policy to cancel the trial for subscribers, but the sales team would allegedly do it anyway by management. So they would do the nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Go ahead, try it. It's $35 a month, but the first month's free. And, just for you, because you're really beautiful over the phone, we're going to cancel that for you before it ever touches your bank account. Well, they said that we were told by managers to cancel it to avoid any future headaches, but a lot slips through the cracks. So, yeah, I guess management were, kind of on board, but at the same time, as I said, it's against policy for them to cancel. So, of course, the sales reps didn't always cancel the trials, leading to customers suddenly incurring a $35 fee without warning. And some AT&T subscribers paid the additional charge for up to 7 months, even if they weren't using the service. Folks, check your bills. 7 months. Man. First of all, how do you not check your account and be like, oh, well, that's $35 that it suddenly hiked? But I guess some people did that, and now they are, 7 times 35, quick math. Oh, what is that? $245? $250. That's awful. So if those charges amounted to negligence or forgetfulness on the part of the AT&T employee, another scheme used to sign people up was straight malicious, where in some cases, salespeople would sign up a customer for 3 DirecTV Now subscriptions on a single account. Folks, you would never need 3 DirecTV Now subscriptions ever. That should definitely be caught by the system. And if it was, quote unquote, an error, but they kept it anyways because it boosted their sales number, that could lead to a lot of problems. So they said this occurred when AT&T was running a promotion offering the first month of DirecTV Now for $10. And in AT&T's system, a rep could sign up a person up to 3 subscriptions on a single credit card, allowing them to quickly inflate the number of subscribers using the service and meet the quotas placed on AT&T retailers. Maybe I'm just never been part of the massive corporate ecosystem that is an AT&T or a DirecTV, but this idea that quotas, that you can make people twist people's arms, or the only way you're going to hit that quota is if you not just pound the pavement, not just really do sales calls, but at the same time the only way you can hit it is illegal sales practices. I don't get why that is preferable to just offering a good service with good customer support. So, anywho, one of the employees said that my manager picked up my iPad, which was signed in under me, made a fake email, then activated a DirecTV Now subscription on that email, and then said, if I can do it, here you go, you can do the next one. And they said that was a fired AT&T employee, told Hawaii News Now. So they even made fake email addresses to, make this happen. So, let's go ahead and skip to the end of this article. Not going to, get too much further into it. Just know that AT&T, when it comes to DirecTV Now, those numbers, and if it's anything like these stories from past organizations, they've tried this, they've done this, and it was certainly prevalent, but it was mainly among the sales force. So if a certain number of these are legitimate, people called them, saw the promotion, we want to buy this, and they bought it. I don't think those people, are ever going to be upset about what they did. But it's the people who were signed up for the free trial and weren't canceled like they promised they would be. It's the people who were illegally signed up for multiple accounts instead of just the one. Those are the people who are going to have a headache. And they said that. And by the way, a spokesman for AT&T said that, quote, last fall we detected some simultaneous customer orders and cancellations of a free product trial. We determined some employees had violated our policies. Based on our findings, we took appropriate action. And they reportedly confirmed management and non-management employees were involved in the scheme. So the appropriate action was probably some retraining, some patting on the back, and said, better luck next time. Let's try not to get caught next time. And I should really look up the bank that was doing this. Let's see. I think that was Wells Fargo, and there was a Tech Rob in the chat room mentioned Wells Fargo. Wanted to double check, make sure it was. It was Wells Fargo that was signing up people for, or at least were opening people accounts, and they were signing them up for like credit cards. They were essentially anything they could do to take a customer's data that was already a customer with them, and open up another account so that they could hit their sales quotas, or they would sign them up for credit cards, and they would do all this knowing that it was extremely bad for the customer. But if you want to keep your job, if you want to keep that thing that puts money in your pocket, you are going to do whatever it takes to do this. And if everyone around you is doing it, let's see, about 5,300 Wells Fargo employees were fired over 2 million phony accounts. So this wasn't just one guy in one department. This was 5,300 people, and that's the amount of people that they decided to fire. That's probably not even the amount of people who actually did this. So, again, we're going to leave it there. AT&T, Wells Fargo, some of the biggest customers, again, you think that they would have the least incentive to, kind of fudge the numbers because, hey, they undoubtedly have probably the best numbers in the industry. But it seems time and time again, they are, quite literally the biggest offenders. So, all right, So there's that one. Again, I'm going to drop that one for now. But that was a huge story from yesterday. Definitely wanted to touch on it today. Let's go ahead and move on to... All right. So let's do these two stories back to back. This one from yesterday, and then we're going to immediately do one that came from today. And here we go. Saying that Japan Times, this coming again from yesterday, will be using a crime prediction system using big data and AI. So this is not particularly new. A lot of organizations do this. The most notable one that I always point to would be the one in, I believe it's in Los Angeles. The police station there uses Twitter. They troll Twitter and local tweets, and they monitor activity in certain areas, and they send more officers to those areas because they can say that, you know, within a certain amount of probability that, let's see, if there's more Twitter activity in a certain neighborhood, then later on in the afternoon or later on at night, that neighborhood is probably going to be more active, and we're going to send more officers to that area to patrol. Predictive crime using data and saying, hey, here's what will happen in the future. Well, Japan, the place of anime and cyborgs and robots and futuristic, you know, Gundam suits and things like that, well, looks like they're going to have another futuristic technology, and again, predictive crime analysis. So they said that street crime prediction has already achieved results in Europe and the United States, who established the data analysis company Singular Perturbations. That's a word that just completely blows my mind. But they said that last year in hopes of developing a Japanese version of the methods used in the United States, where in some parts of the United States, they have ramped up patrols in areas where AI-based predictive crime is likely to happen. And they have achieved a reduction of 20% on average. So 20% reduction of crime just by simply using this technology. That is certainly something to set up and take notice of. So, according to the Human Rights Watch, an advanced system called the Integration Joint Operations Platform is pooling data on people from many sources, and that it has already deployed in the restive western Xinjiang region, where it is being used to flag and detain people deemed potential threats. So, they are detaining people who the computer system has determined would be a potential threat. We say that, you know, automatically you think of Minority Report, you think of, well, I haven't committed a crime yet, why are you arresting me, why are you detaining me if I haven't even done anything? And then at the same time, especially here in the United States with, you know, these terrible mass shootings that are happening, or with, you know, bombers in Europe or any other of these horrible events, you say, you know, why couldn't something have been done sooner? Weren't there any warning signs? And this is the balancing act that a lot of countries are going to have to start walking, is that we can probably identify the people who are threats. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's certainly possible that someone with no criminal record, no strange browser history, someone with certain forms of mental illness, someone with a propensity to violence, a past criminal record, you know, it's certainly possible that someone with no flags can, you know, go off and do terrible things. But a lot of times we see these stories come out and this person is not a stranger to law enforcement. So at what point do you say, why couldn't we have done something sooner? They obviously knew something was up. And why are you arresting someone before they even do anything? That is a hard distinction to make. Excuse me. So they said that despite her limited data, the predictions mostly matched areas where crime actually occurred. And by the way, this was, they personified the system. They said that her accuracy is likely to improve if additional factors such as weather, traffic, and Twitter posts are incorporated. like I said, Twitter, thank goodness criminals are stupid, because they will advertise what they do when they do it, before they do it in a lot of cases, and law enforcement just need to sit up and take notice. And yes, they can also include things like criminals don't like operating in the rain. So, hey, check that out. So, let's see, the article goes on for a bit, but let's go ahead and wrap this up, saying that they announced plans to become the first prefecture in the nation, again in Japan, to introduce predictive policing, and hopes to put a system in place on a trial basis before the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. Although I would think that any crime that would happen during the 2020 Olympics, the massive influx of new people, of tourists, of the Olympic Games would throw their predictive analysis off. But yeah, this is not a technology that is foreign or new or groundbreaking, but it's just bringing it to a different country. And again, in this case, Japan. Will they see results? So, yep, we'll absolutely see what happens there. So, let's see. So, yep. Okay, so I want to do that one, and then today. This one just came out today. Let's go ahead and talk about this. Let's see. So, you may have heard of something, or at least an organization called ICE. They've been in the news lately. Immigration and let's see, it was Immigration and Customs Enforcement. So they've obviously been in the news. There's been a lot of political hubbub about what's happening in at the U.S.-Mexico border. And hubbub is of course putting a funny word to a very serious issue. But this one coming to us from Motherboard, and this is where that technology I was just talking about that's being introduced in Japan, it's cool technology. It's good technology when it's used correctly. It has shown results, and it again uses public data that's readily available that anyone can access, and it just simply puts it in a usable form that law enforcement can then kind of act on. Well, this next story is what happens when things can go a little awry. And this is where ICE modified its quote-unquote risk assessment technology, which, again, just talked about with Japan. So it automatically recommends detention. So risk analysis is supposed to have a wide range of results. And this could be, I'm assuming that the one for ICE would of course have everything from letting the person go, but keeping track of them, or detaining them, or, any number of in-betweens. Well, what happens when that technology is modified so that the outcome is not based on data, but on the desired output of law enforcement? Or, because hey, they own the software, they own the programming, and they can make whatever changes they want to it. And if they want to lean more heavily to one side, it's even if it's not kind of prudent by law enforcement, even if it's not best practices, what happens if let's just take that the system in Japan again? What if they said that everyone who lived in a certain area where murders are more likely to occur, everyone who had a cell phone signal there between the hours of 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., every one of those people should therefore be arrested because they're in a high crime area and they're up at an unreasonable hour, and we say they are guilty and we take them all out. And of course we arrest them all. Well, that's not really the intended use of the software. So let's get into this, and Motherboard, as they are wont to do, they put a lot of effort into into what they do. And although this looks to be from Reuters originally, but here we go. saying that when an immigration and customs enforcement officer arrests an undocumented immigrant, whether they have been residing in the U.S. for years or whether they were trying to cross the border, the agency must make a custody decision, where this decision determines whether the immigrant will be released on bond or detained in one of ICE's prison-like detention centers until their court date. So, obviously, again, if you've been watching the news, this whole situation has, of course, escalated in the past few weeks. And yeah, we're seeing a massive amount of people who are being thrown in prison who, you know, in past administrations or in past years would have been given, release on bond and given a court date. And much like happens every day across the United States, say, hey, show up in court at this date, otherwise we'll come find you. But yeah, you're free to go for the moment. Just show up at your court date. So they said that according to a new investigation report from Reuters, however, last year ICE changed its risk assessment software so that it always recommends detention for apprehended immigrants to conform to Trump's zero tolerance stance on illegal immigration. And that this change led to an almost immediate increase in detention of immigrants with little to no criminal history who would have normally been on release on bond until their court date. So, in 2017, ICE booked more than 43,000 immigrants into its detention centers, which is more than 3 times the number of detainees in the year prior. So, obviously, this is going to skirt politics, quite closely. Please send your hate mail to live@computeramerica.com. But in the meantime, we're just interested about the software that they're using. So, the risk classification assessment removed the release option, but the RCA can still make recommendations on bond eligibility and may recommend that an ICE deportation officer make a final decision on whether to detain an alien or release the individual in some capacity. Final custody decisions are always made by ICE deportation officers. The problem with that, let's see. So the problem with that is that, sorry about that. So the problem with that is that they spent a lot of money on this software to tell them what's the best course of action. And if an ICE deportation officer sits there and says, release on bond, release on bond, release on bond. This person has been in the United States for 6-7 years. They have a family, they have a home, they have a job, they have a life. They're not going anywhere. They're not going to uproot. They're going to keep a court date because they want to keep what they have here. If they do that continuously over and over and over and over again, then they might face repercussions from their higher ups asking, hey, why are you going against the system? Why are you making recommendations that are, or why are you making judgment calls that are not in the system? So if the system continually and repeatedly spits out, hey, detain this person, detain, then it makes it much harder on the officer to justify why they should be released on bond. So let's see. So we're not gonna go back. All right. How about this one? And then let's go ahead and kind of move on from this story. But in a 2015 review of the risk assessment system, so by the way, the system has been in place for about 3 years, the Department of Human Services claimed that the software is ineffective when it comes to complex cases. Which the computer system will refer to ICE supervising officer. And according to DHS, during its first year of the use of the system, was unable to make a detain or release recommendation on nearly 20% of all cases. which honestly isn't bad. You know, if it's able to make a recommendation 4 out of 5 times, that's not bad. Furthermore, they overrided about 22% of the cases, and they made changes to override about 7%. So, folks, we'll be right back. More Computer America, more technology news right after this.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. That's 800-215-4461.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the... Wow. Let's try that again. Welcome back to the Computer America Show. And if you're just joining us, hey, thank you for joining us here on Computer America. If you missed any part of today's show, feel free to check us out on podcasts or our recorded show. That is, of course, today's live show in its entirety, rebroadcast wherever podcasts are heard. So be that Google Play, iTunes, SoundCloud, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, whatever your poison, we got you covered. So, with that being said, we're right in the middle of, actually, we're about to wrap up this article about ICE, yes, the Border Enforcement Agency, fiddled with their software, their crime predictive software, so that it favored more heavily detention rather than releasing on bond, which was actually a fairly common occurrence. So, and, we were just making, making the observation that a 2015 review of the system showed that it made a concise determination about 4 out of 5 times, and the ICE officer ended up overturning about 22% of those. So 1 out of 5 times it said, I have no clue. 4 out of 5 times it said either detain, release on bond, or something else. And in 22% of those cases, the ICE officer said, no, the system has it wrong. This is what we're going to do. And they said that subsequent algorithm changes made by ICE in 2014 reduced the override rate to 7.6%. Not bad. So from 22 to 7.6%. Yep. So let's go ahead and wrap this up, saying that ICE itself asked for an increase in funding for alternative programs that don't involve detention in its 2019 budget request to make up for its limited number of beds in detention centers. So essentially, they made this system favor more heavily because of a zero tolerance policy for illegal immigrants. They made it more favorably heavy detention, and now in the next year's budget, they're asking for money for ways to not have to detain all these people. because having to detain 43,000 people and every single person costs about $133 per person per day. Yeah, they don't have the beds, they don't have the man hours, they don't have the resources to handle this new crime predictive software. So there you have it. And again, I wanted to do the one from Japan and then the one from ICE right after another because it shows the potential for the system where it can actually decrease crime by a very sizable amount. But at the same time, it can go overboard and it can be messed with after the fact. It can be manipulated in such a way that fits either an organization, a government, a person, a bias, and it can change to reflect that. So, all right, there's that one. Let's go ahead and switch over to, how about a happier story? I like happier. Let's talk about, all right, this is the happiest story that I can think of, and it's going to be great. Folks, today is the day. I know what you're thinking, but yesterday was the day. No, yesterday was a day. Today is the day because, and not D-Day, the day. Because CNET still has auto-playing ads. But this article brought to you by CNET, and great publication, but at the same time, they're very aggressive. So here we go. A new Wi-Fi standard. Ooh ah ooh ah. I know, it's great. So WPA3 Wi-Fi is here, and it's harder to hack. So not just a new Wi-Fi standard, but rather I should say a new Wi-Fi encryption standard. This is good because we have been using WPA2 for, I think it's been like 2007, 2008. It's been a long time, like a decade since it's been updated. And, not too long ago, there was a WPA2 vulnerability that had every single WPA2 password or encryption protected router was compromised because there was a flaw in its encryption methodology. It was huge. It was it's going to continue to wreak havoc for years and years to come. But hey, at least there is a fix, and it just arrived. So, saying that there's a new standard for securing Wi-Fi connections, and it's called WPA3. So here's what that means for you. New Wi-Fi routers will come with stronger protections for the data that flows between your computer, phone, or smart home devices and your internet connection. And it will also boost security in workplace Wi-Fi networks and changes the way wireless behaves on enterprise networks. Where the Wi-Fi Alliance, a partnership of tech companies that hashes out the protocol for Wi-Fi, which I think we had a number of organizations. We have not had that one yet. But a partnership of tech companies that hashes out the protocol for Wi-Fi announced some of the features earlier in 2018. And on Monday, that would be yesterday, the organization announced the protocol has been finalized. How was that not front page news that WPA3 was released? Man, what a shame. But they're saying that to better secure Wi-Fi users, the new protocol will make it harder to run common hacking attack on personal wireless networks. It's called an offline dictionary-based attack, and it allows hackers to make endless guesses as to what your Wi-Fi password is. So think about all those people that you know whose password is "it's a secret" or "baseball 1" or "bond 007" or any of these other goofy but at the same time oh so common passwords. This attack allowed them to try a database that was collected of not just those passwords, but last names, number combinations, and try them in rapid succession, and essentially, brute force their way into your router, because eventually they're going to run into your password because you're not that good at making passwords. You're human. So and they said that, WPA3 is available on new routers certified by the Wi-Fi Alliance. and it's up to individual vendors whether to install the protocol on existing routers with a software update. So WPA3 replaces Wi-Fi Protection Access 2, so WPA2, which was first introduced a decade ago. I was wrong. I said 2008, actually 2004. Fun fact. Man, we've been cruising on that one for too long. So security problems with WPA2 cropped up occasionally in that time, reminding us that unsecured Wi-Fi is bad news. Of course. So, of course, and we were talking about the crack attack, KRACK, if you want to check that out, but it could let attackers on the same Wi-Fi network access your internet traffic without a password. It was a big problem, and almost every single router was vulnerable to it. So manufacturers like networking giant Cisco voiced their support for WPA3 in statements on Monday, where Cisco said that it not only planned to implement WPA3 in its upcoming products, but is looking for a way to push the standard out to its existing devices. So they said for personal Wi-Fi users, the new security protections will work even if your passwords aren't highly complex and hard to guess. And that was from the Wi-Fi Alliance marketing vice president. But even so, he said, be smart about passwords. Because honestly, if your password is 12345678890, and I'm sure I just guessed at least 3 of your passwords, yeah, even in the limited number of attempts that they will give you, your password still may be compromised. But if it's something, halfway down that giant master list that they have, or something a little bit more complex, it's probably not going to meet that threshold. And let's say they only give them about, I don't know, maybe 500 attempts before the system locks itself. That is infinitely safer than infinite tries. So users should still choose passwords that are hard to guess. A user should not go and pick password as their password. So there you have it. WPA3 coming. For the end user, this really shouldn't be, that big of a deal. But for network administrators, especially in corporate environments, this is going to be really a lot of practices that you have to implement after the fact should now be baked in directly into the standard protections. So cool stuff there. And again, it's great to see new standards come up, whether they be USB standards, HDMI standards, Wi-Fi standards. Standards are a beautiful thing, and I love hearing when they, kind of catch up to speed. So let's talk. All right, this is one about a movie. So Black Panther. It was a movie, and it was one that I actually saw. It was a lot of fun. It was a really good superhero movie, and Black Panther, apparently I'm not the only one who thinks so, because it's heading to the Smithsonian. You heard that right. Where T'Challa's signature suit will soon be on display at the recently opened National Museum of African American History and Culture. Because, when you celebrate African American history and culture, I guess Wakanda is now going to be one of the forerunners. So, they said that Black Panther was an instant success for Marvel, and first it broke the company's first-day pre-sale ticket records, out-earning The Last Jedi over its 4-day opening weekend. Then it nabbed the biggest February debut of all time, and it's pulled in more than $1 billion worldwide. One movie, $1 billion. And they said that it currently stands as the highest grossing film by a black director. Well, the museum announced that it will display the costume worn by the star Chadwick Boseman and designed by Oscar-nominated designer Ruth E. Carter from October 24th to October 27th during its African American Festival. So, along with Boseman's costume, the museum will feature the shooting script signed by the co-writer and director Ryan Coogler, producer and movie studios president Kevin Feige, executive producer Nate Moore, and co-writer and producer Joe Robert Cole. Attendees will be able to see the 2 pages of the spec scripts, and 24 high-resolution production photographs. So they praised the film's powerful black characters, especially in regard to its female characters. It was also nice to see women in dynamic warrior roles, as well as adept in the sciences and technology. These are images many audiences have longed to see in mainstream film, but haven't for too long. So it's heading to the Smithsonian. A couple of articles from the movie will be on display for a couple of days, but I think it's totally justified. I mean, it was a really, really good movie, and the fact that a lot of people found a renewed interest in what it meant to, what African, kind of pride meant, even if it was in a fake African country like Wakanda. If it renewed any kind of that excitement over that segment of the population, then I can see it totally being, commemorated in this way. So there you have that. And if you are anywhere near the Smithsonian, you can check that out, of course. So let's see. So there are lots and lots of stories that, 15 minutes left. Not going to be able to get to all of them. Let's talk about Nvidia. And Nvidia, you may know them. They make graphics cards, and they make really, some of the best on the market. There's really no doubt about it. But when it comes to journalists and what they are allowed to do, journalists always try to get the latest scoop, the newest thing about what Nvidia is doing. And Nvidia is without a doubt the leader, and has been the leader, and will probably continue to be the leader for the foreseeable future when it comes to GPUs. So it came as kind of a shock, this coming from videocards.com, but it was a statement from Heise.d team. So it's a German website, but Heise saying that Nvidia's new NDA attacks journalistic work. And this is an NDA that they released that Nvidia wanted them to sign, gave them 2 days of a deadline to do it, and otherwise, hey, no further communication would happen between Nvidia and this agency. And you can be sure that they aren't the only one who were asked to sign this. Probably every single website or review outlet that that dealt directly with Nvidia. So Nvidia only gave 2 days to journalists to sign a new NDA, and the document describes how confidential information should be used by journalists and other parties. And the German website Heise.d claims that the new document attacks journalistic principles. In fact, their legal team has clapped their hands over their head as they read the document. I don't know what clapping your hands over your head means, but it's probably not a good sign from your legal team. And again, NDAs are not, they're not uncommon. They're not different. They're not unheard of. But I think an NDA of this scope would be something that that news organizations should probably avoid, no matter the repercussions that come from Nvidia themselves. So the new NDA does not refer to any particular product, such as the upcoming GeForce, where they said that it does, however, outline how new products or events should be reported. And here's the real problem, saying that Nvidia's new NDA basically says that any confidential information provided by the party must be used solely for the benefit of Nvidia. So that, let's see, this happened for Intel. Just to pick another company, no offense Intel, but hey, this certainly did happen at the beginning of the year. But let's say you have situations such as Intel, where they had the Spectre and the Meltdown security flaws. And it was a big deal. It slowed down many, many processors. It was a security risk of the highest order. So if they signed an NDA such as the one that Nvidia is asking journalists to sign, then solely for the benefit of Nvidia, That means that if you receive that information, not just from Nvidia, but if you receive that information from any third party, as a news organization, you were not allowed to report on the security risk, because obviously a security risk would be detrimental to Nvidia's image, and therefore you would not be allowed to report it, as it is not solely for the benefit of Nvidia. Saying that this could be understood in many ways, but for a journalist sharing confidential information does not always mean reporting in favor of a new product. Sometimes it's the opposite. So does criticism break the new NDA? And Heise is worried that this could prevent journalists from writing whatever they want. So obviously, it just seems to be some fuzzy language. I'm sure that something like this, especially across international courts, probably wouldn't hold up in court, freedom of the press and what have you. But the language is so fuzzy, people are wary about signing Nvidia's new NDA. Furthermore, the new NDA also imposes a 5-year expiration on confidential information. Journalists from Heise are concerned that this could keep their mouth shut for 5 years should they decide to sign it. And when it comes to technology, the only thing you need to keep confidential over 5 years in technology, when it comes to reporting new products and things like that, are things that are so far in development, they are on a roadmap and they are purely speculative, and they're not even ready for production, let alone ready for prototyping. 5 years down the road, let's say if you got some confidential information about the next gen graphics card that comes out in 2.5 years, what happens if you hear about that and then, hey, what do you have to do? Keep your mouth shut for another 2.5 years while it hits the market and goes by the wayside? It's, or, what if you actually do find out something that, your readers really should, actually hear about, but you sign this and 5 years have to go by before you can break the story? That would make the story completely obsolete in a lot of regards. So, all right. So Nvidia's new NDA also mentions trade secrets which are never to be talked about. This could theoretically prevent a journalist from sharing confidential information gathered from other sources, especially when the same document prevents journalists from posting hypotheses or predictions based on confidential information. So you're not even allowed to infer as a journalist from the information that you receive. So they said that the Heise team did not decide to sign the document and that this will prevent them from obtaining samples for future products. So yeah, there you go. Nvidia, they have been accused of, how do you put it lately, anti-competitive behavior before, namely, and I don't say that lightly, I really do like Nvidia. They make a lot of great products. But Nvidia has done things in the past, such as their Nvidia, their Nvidia Insider program, which would, it restricted advertising to only products that solely endorse Nvidia over AMD and no other competitor besides that. So Nvidia has been anti-competitive before, and this seems to be one way that they are trying to hit another part of the population, is that they can keep people's mouths shut because, as I said, they're so dominant. They are so dominant and they will continue to be dominant. They can try to put in this new Draconian non-disclosure agreement. And I honestly hope, I really do hope, and they even have the NDA up here. Anyone who's interested in reading that, but let's face it, it's just a bunch of legalese. But they feel comfortable in releasing something like this because they will continue to be the best of the best for the foreseeable future. So there you have it. It's, not always fun to report things like that because, hey, you do really like the company, but at the same time, they need to be called on their baloney. So let's hope that was just fuzzy language and maybe lost in translation. So there you go. All right, so there's that story. I think we have time for just one more, and let's go ahead and pick out. Let's do this one because it was one of the leading stories for today, and oh, wrong one. Wrong one. So, Google Assistant. You may know them. Google Assistant is available through the Google Home speaker. It's available through Android devices. The Google Assistant is pretty smart. Well, it just got a little bit smarter if you consider those who are bilingual smart. Saying that today, Google announced that Assistant on its Home, Mini, and Max products. So, so Home, Mini, and Max, that's, I think, their entire Google Home lineup. Although I think they have like a Google video that isn't mentioned, but whatever. Products can now speak and understand Spanish. Additionally, consumers in Mexico will be able to find Google Home on store shelves starting today. And the product launches in Spain last week. There you go. So after saying the wake words, and we're not going to say them for respect for anyone out there who maybe has Google bugging their home, users can use Spanish to speak with Assistant on the Home, Mini, and Max. So to hear what your schedule and appointments for the day, you can say, I got this, wait. I'm great with Spanish. I took this for like 5 years in middle and high school. So if you want to check your schedule and appointments, you can say, ¿Cómo será mi día? ¿Cómo será mi día? Or to turn down the temperature, simply tell the assistant, baja la temperatura del termostato. I'm sure that was awful. I'm sure anyone out there who speaks Spanish with any kind of moderate accent is their ears are bleeding at this point. But yeah, you can now speak to your Google Assistant in Spanish. Hey, just mix it up. Just try it. So these features are available today on the aforementioned Google Home hardware. And if you're using Google Assistant on Android, the services have been available in Spanish to speakers in the US, Mexico, and Spain since last November. So yeah, pretty cool. Short story, and I think we can touch on just one more quick one. Let's talk about, wow, some of these are so long that all right, here's one. So this is by the BBC, and it's relatively big news. If you live in London, they've had a pretty public fight when it comes to London's taxis and their taxi operators, as opposed to Uber, because Uber was running an iconic brand out of business and actually making things a little congested. I believe that accidents were up, things like that, and essentially private hired vehicles were destined to. They have a chart here. Let's see. Growth in private hire licenses in London show a 92% growth since 2009. So getting a taxi in London used to be super, super hard and was very expensive, kind of like New York City. But now that anyone can do it with a single app, hey, that's where they're trying to cut down on it. So, hey, if you're in London and you want to take an Uber, there are restrictions, but you can now do it. So that's pretty cool. All right, so everyone, music means that we're just about done for today, and I want to thank you so much for tuning into the show. Be sure to tune in tomorrow on the program as we have, let me get this directly from the calendar. One of our favorite, Scott Schober. He is our cybersecurity expert, and we, of course, rely on him to talk all about everything cybersecurity. So definitely going to be talking about WPA3, and we're going to be talking about what he is doing there. But at the same time, everyone, we will of course be back in tomorrow, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern. So folks, until next time, have a great day. Thank you so much for tuning in, And be sure to catch us here, same time, same place. So, until next time, everyone, have a great day. Bye-bye.